Hey everyone! All right. So you've got a big vision, but a small budget. This is like interesting because have you ever had the experience of, okay, you are you want to do more, maybe in your career or in your business, but you keep coming up with excuses of why, I can't take action because I can't take action because. And last week we were talking about how obstacles come up and they can stop us in our tracks, but what if the obstacle is the way? And today in particular, we're looking at one obstacle in particular of having a big juicy vision, but a small budget to start off of. And because I don't have the money yet, then I can't. Right. Or
Mhm.
I can't go as big as those guys over there. And so why even try? Right, Nettie?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I love that you can say big vision, small budget with a straight face. Yeah. And I love how well this ties into what we were talking about last time about the obstacle, because as you said, this is one iteration, one version of an obstacle, and it is a common obstacle. I feel like people fall into two camps. Either they have a super big vision and they're like, then maybe they're going for it, maybe they're not, maybe there's an excuse, whatever, or they have a super small vision. So we're not talking about you today if you have a super small or no vision. That will be a later episode. But today we want to know, do you see amazing things for yourself and for your business? And right now, your reason for not going forward and doing more about it is because you don't have the budget. And we're going to call this an excuse.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. I mean, not for nothing. I do love big budgets, and I cannot lie. We do like a big, juicy, round, well-rounded
Well
budget.
rounded budget.
Well-rounded. Yes, nice and firm and all the things, but we all got to start from somewhere. By the way, Nettie, you are a person who knows stuff. And in case people haven't met you, do you mind introducing them to the amazingness that is Nettie Owens?
I can do that. I can do that. So the stuff I know tends to center around women leaders and entrepreneurs and helping them reach that big vision, helping them reach that big goal that they've set for themselves. So if that's you, for those who are listening, the visual on the big vision that Victoria just provided was squeezy hands. Okay. So if you have a squeezy hands, big vision, and you really want to like make that happen, that is what I support people on, specifically women leaders and entrepreneurs. I've been doing this for a long time, since 2004. And my flavor of this is really to help you create the system of success for you that's unique to you, so that we can know what action to take it consistently, address the things that come up, and really help you get there. You can check me out at thesaparigroup.com. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Victoria.
Yay! I love it. Sensei Victoria Whitfield. Sensei means teacher in Japanese. I'm a Reiki master teacher turned business coach. After 16 years of manifesting entrepreneurs, whenever I go out to do energy clearings for people, I keep attracting more and more self-employed individuals. So I serve impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders to help ground and clear in mind, body, and business. So the more that we increase your energy levels, I see that we increase your income and impact, and that's what I'm here to help do. You can find me at strategicmeditation.com.
Awesome. Well, I think that perfectly positions us to talk about vision and budget. And so, I think a really common mistake when we're talking about something where we have this, as we've said, this excuse of not having the budget, the first move is, well, we'll just shrink the vision, make it smaller, make it more manageable to the budget that we have. But this is a mistake. Why, Victoria, would you not want to shrink the vision?
Mm. Well, because the vision's the North Star, it's the magnetic north that pulls you in the direction of where you want to go. So if you shrink it, right, you're not going to be really headed towards what you're capable of. You will shrink your output if you move the goalpost back. Right. Oh, well, I don't have to reach that far. When I remember back when my spirit guides challenged me to go on a world tour, I thought that was ridiculous. I had no budget, as in I had no money. Like, no
Mhm.
budget. For some people, like, oh, we have no budget. That means no limit. In spiritual truth, that is also the case. Yes, when you have no budget, you have no limits, but also in a practical sense, it takes a money to get you on planes to fly places. It takes some money to feed you as you go places if you're going to do a world tour. And I sure did get to do it, but I did not step away from the idea of doing an international tour. Instead, I adjusted myself and the actions that I took to make sure that I was able to realize that vision.
Mm,
Now, was it like a 50 city world tour? No, it was 7, right? But and that
mm,
was within the space of 1 year.
mhm,
Now, did was it like huge, insane Beyonce level productions? No, it wasn't. But by the end of every single one of my visits, were people like, "You are awesome. Like, let's continue this work." The answer is yes.
mhm,
So be kind to yourself if, okay, it's Pinky in the Brain and you're like, "What are we going to do tonight?" It's take over the world. Yes. And how you take over the world doesn't mean you have to be like dripping in gold and diamonds,
mm,
or flying first class. I flew economy. And I still went on a world tour in under a year, and it was awesome,
mhm.
right? But at the same time, we've got to keep the energy of this is where I'm going. Even in sports, when you're trying to do the jump, right? I think it's the long jump. You have to look where you're going in order to make the jump. If you look at your feet, you're not going to
No.
hit it.
No, I think that's a really good analogy. I mean, I think sports really helps bring this home. If the vision is winning the game, we can't shrink that to, oh, wow, I made it to midfield. There's no goal. There's no goal at midfield. That is not going to help you win the game. You actually need to aim for the goal box, and have even a specific space in mind in that goal box. So the budget really acts, instead of being a ceiling, like, oh, this is it, this is my limit. It's a constraint. And that constraint can be motivating. If we go back to the obstacle is the way, now we have, great, I have this vision and I need to make it work with this amount of money that I have set aside. And maybe that's a very small amount, maybe that's none, as you were talking about. It is definitely possible. So, when what happens then? What do we do to, like, move towards that vision when the budget is zero or small? Like, I mean, we talked about shrinking, but maybe we just discard it. Like, I think, there's maybe some listeners who are like, okay, well, if I can't shrink it and my budget's zero, then I guess I just let it go. I just don't pursue it. And I also think that's the wrong course of action, because if you can figure this out, and it's a hard problem, you will gain skills that will lead you to solve every other hard problem that you're facing, right? So that is the point of the obstacle being the way. How do we figure this out? How do we take zero or little and turn it into a really big vision? Maybe you're listening and you're thinking, that sounds great on paper, okay, I get creative, but I can only creative myself so far. I need to know if I'm trying to invest in people. Do I invest in systems? Do I invest in visibility or marketing? Like, what do I do? How do I actually, what does that look like to use this as a creative constraint instead of a limit?
Yeah. Well, before we went live, I loved the point that you made when we were jamming on this topic of how the budget we could see even more as a corset. I love
Mm,
a good corset. It's supportive. It's meant to hold you up and focus, right? Bring in a focal point
mhm,
for you. Um, it is a constraint, but it's also a container in which that you are able to move and relax freely.
mhm,
So, with that being said, keeping a positive mindset of like, okay, I'm I'm doing this from scratch, right? I
mhm,
have the vision. What could be realizing this vision at minimum, right?
mhm,
Realizing your vision at minimum. If you're trying to speak on stages, for example, that's the big juicy vision, right? Then think about the people first.
mhm,
So I would say, as far as like the best investment is in people, and especially centers of influence. There's
mhm,
always a way around everything. When you have a mindset that supports, I can do, be, or have whatever I want, there's always a way around everything. And there's an infinite amount of money to support that, right? When you have that, you also start to realize that people are more valuable than money. So you may have, let's say, like 1,000 in the bank, right?
mhm.
Max, and you need that to eat and pay your existing bills and stuff like that. So it's not like, oh, it's just 1,000 on hand to spend.
Mhm.
What I would recommend is that, especially for people who are starting out, I would encourage you to be down with OPP. Other people paying. Be down with other people's payments, right? If they want to be the host in the space, right?
Mhm.
Or if they want to bring in their friends, if they want to co-sponsor the event, be down with OPP. Bring in the community around you. So sure, financially, you have a certain amount that you are able, like, you can spend and use as your budget, but there's also the community around you outside of the corset that can bring in more resources. A word that I'm hearing from my spirit guides is potluck. So the
Mm,
average person may understand this concept of a potluck party. If you want to throw an awesome dinner party, right? It takes some money to do that, right? Cups, space, the
food is not
plates, the
cheap.
food.
Yeah.
Let it be potluck style. And all of the sudden, oh man, you're going to have leftovers,
Mm,
right? Even on a limited budget that you're working. Talk to any
yeah.
college student that could throw an amazing party if you open it up to the community contributing.
There's a number of things that came to mind as you were sharing through that. The first thing that really struck me is, we talked about how nice a big, juicy budget is. And we talked about how great it would be to have unlimited money. I would actually argue that it is better to have the constraint. It is better, especially at the beginning while you're building, to have the constraint. We talked about the corset and the structure that comes with it, but we have a phenomenal example in the United States of what happens when you give people more money than uh, they know how to use. And that example is the EIDL loan. The EIDL loan was given in COVID, after COVID, to help businesses stay open. And from every person that I've ever spoken to that took the EIDL loan, it did more harm than good. It was a lot of money that people hadn't budgeted for having, and without the constraint, without that container to operate in, it was spent, and more people, the bigger story that I have heard is they became twice as much in debt as the loan that they took, at a minimum. And so, I don't want that. I certainly don't want that for you. And I don't want you to think that having more money is going to solve this. Because as I said at the beginning, if you can solve this here, it will be the launch pad for you solving everything else. And having those constraints helps you focus, as Victoria said, prioritize, and make sure that you actually create what you're envisioning instead of just thinking, oh, well, I can go spend money on ad spend when I don't even know if this is revenue generating. I can go hire a team and then basically outsource decision making and creativity, to people who don't know my vision. Or I could invest in a system in something that's never been done before. You cannot build the system until you've started to create the thing. So I love that when the question was, where do you invest first, people, systems, or visibility? You said people, but not in the way that people are thinking about. Like, don't hire people, don't create a system, don't pay for ad spend, build relationships. Make that your first step. Build relationships, and then you're going to see, okay, this person can help me here. This other person has this expertise. This person has a venue. I know we're talking specifically, like with the example we're using is an event, but this is true for whatever project that you're working on. And bigger businesses do this all the time. Always, they're building relationships. Self-driving vehicles, those companies are not building a car from scratch. They're building on existing technology with partnerships with Honda and Toyota and Ford and all of these other places, and they're bringing their technology in. So they have a vision of self-driving vehicles, but they're collaborating and they're building relationships and they're getting funding and investment funding. Those things are available to you. Maybe you haven't thought about it yet, but money doesn't have to come from, your own budget. It can come from relationships, investments, it can come from credit cards. I would advise you to start with other means before you go to credit cards, because that's kind of like that EIDL loan that I was just mentioning, where suddenly you have money and you don't have a plan for that. You need to know how every dollar is going to work and create more dollars. The focus has to be on creating money that's going to create your vision.
100%. Whenever I have clients of mine who are like, okay, Victoria, how do I get my business off the ground? Right. You've been working for yourself as a healer, making six figures for 14 out of the 16 years you've been in business. How'd you do it? And when you're a student of mine, I will tell you head on, you are forbidden from spending money until you make money.
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden. Like, your number one investment, other than, like we said, relationships, being a relationship builder and getting used to asking for help and receiving that, going the potluck, bootstrapping type of approach, is also, you had better learn how to sell. Spending money doesn't make money. It doesn't. And this is like, I know that sounds weird to most people, but I cannot tell you, after I I I've met so many, like, thousands of entrepreneurs at this point, hundreds of whom I've hugged personally and know like directly, where they're like, oh, I'm gonna, like you were saying, I'm gonna hire a team to do this for me. Or, oh, I paid to do a launch, or I paid for all of this stuff, or I paid for a website, or I paid for a blah, blah, blah. Do you have clients? No. Have you made any sales? Nope. Hoping to get it on the other side. No. If a shout out to Mark Cuban. I remember seeing watching Shark Tank. He's like, anyone who takes out a loan to start their business is an idiot. And I agree. Because if you don't know how to get paid because you are serving and solving problems, like you're serving customer and you got a money, it's not like you're not throwing gas on a fire, you're throwing gas on like a fireplace. There's no wood in there. Like there's nothing to grow if you haven't had that initial spark of being able to get paid. When it's time to invest and go bigger, it's because you want to put it into what you're doing that's already working and money generating in the first place. Now, that again doesn't mean that you have to shrink your vision in order to make this happen. And your funnel will work if you work. Your vision will happen if you are working it out there. You've got to get paid first. Like whenever it's unbelievable how many solopreneurs you'll speak to who are more focused on spending money on learning a new thing or launching a new thing or doing something creative or getting another certification instead of spending time and sweat equity getting paid. The more that you take action, the closer you're going to get to meeting that big vision. And it's going to be an iterative process. You're not going to do it like Beyonce the first time. You might do it like kind of scrappy, and it may no one may come for the first few times, but as you iterate, the gift is in the iteration because you're going to learn how to get better and better and better and better in time. But if you just try to act like the vision is happening now and spend like the visioning is happening now, it's unrealistic. You've got to, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is powerlifting.
Mhm.
The first day I went to the powerlifting gym, I saw a dude leg pressing like 600 pounds. 600 pounds. And now I get like, okay, that's like a reasonable amount. But this is 3 years on. Thinking of
Mhm.
like, okay, that's the reason. The first I'm like, that would literally crush me through the floor, like Super Mario style of do 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 do. Like I would be gone. Okay. But if I'm all right, yeah, man, I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna like press 600 pounds on the first day. No, you need to start with six, and we'll see you at 600 when you finally get there. Be kind to yourself. The vision may be 600 pounds, but it's okay for you to start at six. You get stronger on the way.
Mm. I had this vision, aside from you being crushed like Super Mario Brothers. Um, I had this vision of the problem being not being comfortable receiving money, right? So we get this big amount of money, we spend it all, right? Because we've got this big vision. And because we have never made the sale, practice that exercise or whatever, we have no idea what it is to have money come towards us and to keep that money. And this is not a conversation for the rest of the few minutes that we have here today, but I am putting a pin in it that we are going to talk about this. And if this is you, like, girl, everything that we're talking about here, I know we've said a number of times we've met entrepreneurs, we've met people, but the reality here, our listener, is that we have experienced this. We have spent money we didn't have. We have gone for a big vision. We have taken out loans. We have done these things. You are not alone if this is your path as well. Do not think we're speaking hypothetically or talking about theories that business schools might espouse. There are lots of examples of business schools who way down the path, it's making money. But what we're telling you is if you are if you are like us, if you are a small business owner, or even a mid-sized business owner, your first job is to make money, to learn how to make money, to learn how to accept money, to learn how to ask for the sale, to learn how to build a structure that allows that to come to you. And keep that vision, as Victoria was saying, big. Keep it big because that's what you're working towards. And if you can see, okay, you know, I'm going to be on an enormous stage with 50,000 people. I'm not changing that vision. I'm just deciding that my first step towards that is to be on a stage, period. Now we practice that. Now we learn how to do that. And with iterating, an amazing way to go to be iterative in your process. An event that I hosted for years, Momentum Live, I decided I wanted it to be like these branded events that I saw, and I did not have the budget for it. So every time I hosted that event, I bought one more branded item. That was it, one more branded item. And it got to the point where I had a beautifully branded, designed, well appointed event. But it wasn't because I went and bought all of that the first time. I bought flags one time. I bought a pop up stand. I bought God, I don't even remember what, but it was always with a thought that I was simply adding one more thing. And so the budget stayed with what I could manage. People saw it getting better and more beautiful every single time. And it worked within the constraints that I had. So really it's creating that focus and clarity and prioritization. Your goal is to make money. You're in business. Your goal is not, you know, to have on paper the prettiest event that you can have. It is to make money, to be in business, to survive one more day, to do it again so you can ultimately reach that amazing big vision that you have.
Yeah. At the end of the day, a girl's got to eat,
Yeah.
right?
And
So,
chocolate, honey, it's got to be good stuff.
yes, got to get our macros in. That includes chocolate. So, like, a girl's got to eat. And so many women leaders are asleep at the wheel when it comes to sales. So if that's you, you have better comment connect below so that we can reach out to you in a LinkedIn, a three-way LinkedIn DM to make sure that the buck stops here. We want you making money. Your vision can be as big and round and firm and juicy and bouncy as you like. But also, we want to see your bank account nice and juicy, round and delicious. So be kind to yourself if you are uncomfortable receiving money. There's support here from the two of us. If at any time, we'll hop on a three-way complimentary call to see how we can help. And by the way, Nettie, with that
Mhm.
in mind, do you want to give the tease on what's the next topic that we'll be covering?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like it's been great. The topics keep building on one another. But if you're hearing this conversation today and you're like, screw bootstraps, right? What we're going here is stilettos. We want to answer this question of how do we make the biggest and best investment in our business be ourselves and why that is so important. And there are so many different ways that we can talk about money, bringing money in. But bottom line, next week, we're going to be talking about why we need to make that first investment and the biggest investment to ourselves.
Yes, ladies, elevate. The higher the heel, the closer to God, as they say. Yay! We love it. So, with that, I think this is a lovely place to button up The end
Mhm.
of this episode. If you are loving Wake Up Women Leaders, this podcast, do hit the like, the share, the subscribe, pass it on to another sister in business, or for our awesome brothers who support women waking up and leading, go ahead and forward that on. Pass it on to those who could use this information. And anything else, Nettie, from you before we head out?
That's it. Dream big, ladies. It is 100% possible, and diminishing your vision will never make it better.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
Mhm.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.